What's up, y'all? Welcome to Cultural Canvases, Black Men Reshaping Fine Art and Creative Spaces, presented by ArtAboveReality. I have an amazing special guest today, the mentor, the OG, the boss, the artist, the Black Picasso, my main man, Mr. James Dupree. Mr.
Miss-
Dupree, after all our technical difficulties, we finally here.
well, I just got to tell you, that's what happens when you get over 50. You didn't grow up with all this. And they did everything in their power to try to stop this, but we're here.
But we
Uh,
here.
we're
That's how they
here.
do. We keep persevering through that Joan.
Yeah, well, that's why you got to hang out with young people.
We just did a whole lesson on some tech stuff, so we good. But for
It's,
those that don't know, Mr. James Dupree is a pioneer in the city of Philadelphia. Like I mentioned, he's a mentor of mine. He got me just right when it comes to this art thing, understanding art business, understanding process, understanding art people. And he gave me some of my first opportunities to actually learn this game. And he's a resource that I always come to when I'm home, when I'm away. And the love has just always been there. And if you've been anywhere around the city of Philly, I'm sure you've seen his work in airports throughout America. Um, I'm so happy to have him as a mentor and just happy to have him here. And we're gonna get a little bit about Mr. Dupree's story. I mean, we don't have enough time to get the full story because this brother is, I mean, he's got so much going on, so much that's happened, so much to happen. But yeah, let's kind of start from the beginning, Mr. Dupree. Like, how did what drove you to this crazy thing called art?
God,
As always,
you got to understand something. We all come into this world with gifts.
yeah,
It's that some of us don't recognize those gifts and the power that was invested in me would not allow me to do or become anything else against everybody's uh, wishes for me not to become the man I am today. And that is being an artist coming out of poverty where no one understands, because in America we want you to be a sheep.
yeah, pretty
And
much,
when you start telling everybody you're going to be a famous artist at the age of 6, 7 years old, they already start telling you you're crazy, and you need to stop thinking about that nonsense and that foolishness, and you're not going to make any money.
wow,
And so, again, I came out of a situation where as soon as I could hold anything that made a mark, I drew on everything, walls, cabinets. I've been getting beat up ever since, physically, since came out of the womb and started walking and picked up that first crayon. And,
yeah,
and the refrigerator, the cabinets, the floor, the chairs, the table was my canvas.
yeah.
And so that gift I didn't realize until I had kids myself, and they went to college and changed their discipline every semester at my financial expense, because I also believe by that time that they will find their way if you put them in the right environment, especially if they get educated.
Yeah. Do you remember what was the first piece that you made that made you say, "Okay, I'm really an artist"?
I don't know what it was, but it was the inspiration of my second grade teacher, Miss Zipko. And I tell this story all the time. In second grade, I think she said, you're going to be an artist. You're going, and I'll be a famous artist one day." I don't know why she said that to me, but she planted that seed. And then it went to my junior high school. No, then it went to Fleischer Art Memorial
Yeah.
from fourth to seventh grade. And then I started winning. If the teacher selected your work, you got a box of chalks. So it got to the point where I couldn't win anymore. I had so many boxes of chalks because I could take those chalks, at least draw outside of on the curb, they wash it away. When they found out it was me, then they wouldn't let me draw on the sidewalk out front. So this is like sixth, seventh grade. I went to Junior High School there at 12th and Fitzwater. I
Hmm.
came out of the Hawthorne Projects,
Yeah.
13th and Fitzwater, a Sixth Street gang. Uh, that was my 13th Street gang, and that was where I was going. And
Yeah.
so luckily, my mom sent me to my grandparents, and then I went from the all black community to white community, all white school, and had great art teachers. Mr. Paul O'Hara from seventh to ninth grade. When I got detention, they just sent me to the art room. They just
Imagine,
sent-
imagine how many black kids would be famous artists if detention was the art room.
they just sent me to the art room. Go see Mr. O'Hara. And it's funny because I turned out being Mr. O'Hara for another kid that's now a relatively famous artist in London. And at the summer camp I taught at for 35 years, one day he was having a problem. He's out there throwing a concrete bench, and they're getting ready to call the cops. And I went out there and said, "Man, Michael, what the hell are you doing? Put that bench down." And then I talked the camp into allowing him to stay at camp under my supervision. He still calls me dad to this day. And so
Man.
those are the stories, that you think about your own journey, your own life, in that you don't realize that sometimes those stories that are yours are what you gave to someone else. And
Yeah.
and so by the time I got to high school, this is Mr. Del Rosso. Um, wrote a recommendation and got me a full scholarship to his college, which is the Columbus College of Art and Design in Columbus, Ohio, where after 5 years I became the top student there, and I went on to teach for 50 years. And while I was teaching at University of the Arts, um, this young lady comes to my class and her last name is Del Rosso. So I said, "Where are you from?" I've only known one Del Rosso, and the Del Rossos were out of Pittsburgh. Do you know Mr. Del Rosso, the art teacher from Chartiers Valley High School?
Hmm.
And she says, "That's my granddad.
Wow.
That's my
Wow.
granddad." Now, of course, she got an A. But more of that story, somebody said something to me the other day that kind of broke my heart. Said I was selfish and I only thought about myself.
Hmm.
And it hurt me so bad as who I am and who at least I think I am, especially after these last 4 years of my life. Um, you have to remind yourself sometimes um, you can't listen to other people
Yep.
and you can't not follow. You cannot not follow your purpose. And this has been my purpose in life. And it's kind of like a persecution. And I laugh about everything. So you know what I just said because
Yeah.
I laugh about everything because anyone with honesty that sees my work sees the talent. And
Oh yeah.
I
That's
rec-
undeniable.
I recognize it when I leave and go other places, foreign countries. I'm having exhibitions, and everybody's seeing my work for the first time. Outside of the politics, outside of what I did or did not do, or who I helped or didn't help, you only got to see your own personal vision. And if you have the gift, you got to tell your story. So I am now definitely at the a juncture in my life where I really don't care too much about what other people think. And
Hmm.
it's taken me a lifetime to get there. And then the work, the vision, the marks are mine.
Hmm.
And that vision and those marks have influenced a lot of people, whether I get the credit for it or not in my lifetime.
That's
And
a fact.
I was telling a story the other day. One of the greatest artists I met in my lifetime female artist was Dr. Selma Burke, who's from Bucks County, where I now live.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell this story because um, she did more in her lifetime than she ever got the recognition for.
Oh
And
yes.
I know you know about her story,
Oh
and
yeah.
now I just met the woman that's writing the book.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so the first thing she asked me is, did I know Dr. Selma Burke? And of course, I went off, and after half an hour, she got tired of the story because Dr. Selma Burke was a really close friend of mine and
Yeah.
supported me till her death. And so, you know, when you have those folks in your life, just recently, Faith Ringgold passed
Mm-hmm.
away. And when I was at the Studio Museum in Harlem, having a hard time being in New York and navigating New York and the Studio Museum in Harlem and all the issues of being the kind of artist and the kind of art I was trying to make, Faith Ringgold saw my work that somebody else was getting recognition for
Mm-hmm.
and came to me personally and told me, don't you ever sell that body of work.
Mm-hmm.
That work is your power. So even if you don't get credit for it now, they don't see you now here. I see you. And it's going to probably take you a lifetime
Mm.
for the work you're doing and your vision. And I never forgot that. And so, you know, those moments are so precious. And
Yeah.
now when I look back at 74, I'm I'm the I'm the old guy with a billion stories in the history that was passed on to me from Charles Searles, William T.
Mm-hmm.
Williams, Al Loving, who took me by his arm and walked me and spent a whole day with me. And the stuff that he taught me then are the techniques that they use today to adhere every mural in the city of Philadelphia. One of the top guys in the country right now who's having his work at the Biennale
Mm-hmm.
was one of my top students. You know, so what I got to be mad about somebody saying what I did not or didn't do. I know what I've done, and that's all that counts.
Yep.
And that's I I have a kinship with you because of your greatness that's here right now, but it's coming. And you're going to pay a price for it. And remember,
Oh
I
yeah.
sat
You've
here
always told me that.
in
You've always
front of
told
you
me.
telling you now that you were at the precipice of you're at the precipice of what you can't vision to see, but you
Yeah.
got
I
it in
mean,
motion. And
you
I
you
told you, keep it to yourself.
yeah, you've always told me, you was like, for the type of work, that you want to do and the things that you want to build and be a part of and grow, you're going to face, some trials and tribulations for it. You've always said it because I remember even when I was a young arts professional trying to just figure things out
Yeah,
and just would come over to the studio and just talk and say different things and you'd be like, well, B, if you want to do that, you're gonna have to deal with this. You're gonna have to deal with that. And I guess me being naive, I kind of was like, yeah, I'm ready for it, whatever.
yeah,
But I didn't understand,
well,
at the level or
yeah,
at the different levels you go up or you try to
yeah.
go up that things change. Like a lot of those things you really can't avoid, and a lot of it's like extremely frustrating because you have the right intention, you have the
Yeah,
skills, you have the
right,
connections,
right.
but you try to figure out why is it just not executing in the way that I needed to, and then you realize that this art professional game is not just about the arts.
It's about everything.
It's about everything.
That's one of the things I used to say, and I had to stop saying because I've just finally learned not to speak my mind.
Mm,
And there's a dialogue out there, there's a mannerism out there, and there's a profile out there that is supported. And if you don't fit that profile, you don't get the grants, you don't get the awards, you don't get the support. And it has nothing to do with the art.
yeah.
It has nothing to do with the art. That's one thing I found when I was in New York. New York had everything to do with everything else but the art.
Hmm.
I had a family. I was in my 30s, and I had already had a building in Philadelphia, and I had kids, and I was trying to make art, and I got close. I mean, in the 80, 85, Nancy Hoffman Gallery was looking at my work seriously,
Hmm.
and situation happened that was out of my power. It had nothing to do with the art again. I didn't get picked up. But if I had got picked up in 85 at the Nancy Hoffman Gallery in Soho, I'd have been the first one.
Yeah,
And
I think about like stuff like that, like, and kind of go back to like your experiences at like University of Penn and a lot of these places where you would say like, you being the only black artist there, but you didn't care. You was there to make, make art and make what you done. How did those experiences like help prepare you for dealing with this art world?
well, I was I was advised by William T. Williams not to go to the University of Pennsylvania. And I'll never forget him saying, well, you got into the University of Pennsylvania, you could go to Harvard or Yale. And he says, that's one of the most racist colleges in America. But I don't care. I'm looking at like this Ivy League degree. I
Yep.
got a bird in the hand. I got a free ride with a teacher's assistantship. And I look through the books and I'm like number 17 and in the history of that graduate school of fine arts program. And I had met the dean, not knowing he was the dean of the University of Pennsylvania, and pretty much told him where to go and how to get there. And he still gave me a full scholarship when I wasn't working out for me at the university, at PAFA at the
Hmm.
time. I was a young man, big ego, and thought I could paint a little bit. And my critiques were, how'd you do that?
Hmm.
What are you using? Where are you getting these materials? And I had figured out how to make iridescent paints when
Yeah.
they weren't on the market.
Yeah.
Now
You've created some techniques in that
let,
studio where I'm looking like, how did you even do that?
let's think about that. So now you got to critique with somebody that's never seen your palette
Yeah.
or how you putting it, where are you getting these colors from, where are you getting these materials from. Now you got a problem. You got a big problem. And so I kind of realized that. And then I got into trouble at Penn when the dean there wanted me to become his assistant
Hmm.
and go spend the summer in Maine and do his underpaintings.
Wow.
And this is a public story. This is a story I've never made public. So, so I told him where to go and how to get there. And I didn't come to that university to paint his paint by number paintings.
Wow.
So that was like really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He didn't speak to me for 2 years and tried to get me kicked out and couldn't kick me out.
Wow.
So the 3 years at graduate school, on an average, I was doing 200 paintings a year.
Wow.
Plus, I was doing printmaking, and nobody see me in the printmaking room because I go down there between 12 and 2. When it closed, that's when I went down there. So then they decided that if I didn't make any prints after 2 years, uh, they were to kick me out. And when Hitoshi Nakasato came up, he says, Jim, I'm so sorry. If you don't show me some work, they're going to dismiss you. They're going to kick you out of school. I said, well, how much work you want to see? He says, well, I need to see it this week, today.
Yeah.
I said, come on up to the studio anytime you're ready. I had 2 boxes under the bed that I had up in the studio. I was living in my studio. It had heat.
Yeah.
You go down to the gym. I love the University of Pennsylvania. And now they don't, which only angered the dean more because he couldn't remove me from the school.
It's cool because you was doing the work.
So to get to the answer to the question, the University of Pennsylvania taught me how to be verbal and defend the art
Mm.
based on their terms. And so, most important thing with anything is information and to study the authorities. So when those critics came through, I already knew what they were, what they had done, what shows they had been in, why they were doing what they were doing, and I would make a decision whether I was even going to speak to some of them. So
Mm.
when they would insult me in these critiques, like this one, I won't mention her name, famous figurative painter came and said to me she hated the fake luminosity of my work. I said, well, that's okay. That's because you've never seen it. You don't know how I'm doing it. And why are you painting those anatomically incorrect figures?
Mm-hmm.
So they are really ugly. And it's like, it would be like, oh, here comes James, you know. And people don't realize that. And then there was a couple guys that came out of Penn, one specifically, who will never tell anyone that he was influenced by my work.
Mm-hmm.
To the point when people see my work, they refer his name to me.
Yeah.
And I will say, wait a minute, he was a landscape painter and portrait painter. And matter of fact, the first time he saw my work, ridiculed it and said, how do you paint with candy apple red? I said, you put it next to green.
So
So, yeah, go.
I was gonna say, how do you take that type of response and properly turn that into art that is a commentary on what you just experienced? Because that's one of my favorite things about how you create. You can take something that has happened directly to you or
Right,
in a
right,
proxy
right,
and create something that's artistically beautiful but
right.
also has a dialogue in the conversation about it. How did you get to that point of understanding the tools, the materials and everything and also execute it?
Okay, first of all, it's cultural. And
Mm.
that's how I was making that point when no one wanted to hear that, you know. And so my work was fine as long when I was doing stripe paintings that you could compare it to Barnett Newman and Frank Stella. And when I started talking about that work was about being ostracized and segregated, uh, then the work wasn't good anymore.
Mm.
So uh, by my third year of graduate school and my ninth year in college, I figured it out. And that was to tell your story and tell that story in the same manner that you dance
Mm.
or you dress or you walk or we sing. And it's cultural. And so theme five, part 1 through 5 was about something I didn't know the word at the time, synesthesia,
Mm-hmm.
where I hear sound and see color, or I see color and I think of sound. I hear sound. And for a long time, people didn't know I played music, and I guess I can play, but I my way I think about things, I want to be Herbie Hancock. Like I ain't playing unless I can play some Herbie Hancock, and I can't play Herbie Hancock. But at any rate, I figured out the system, and that system wants you to be marketable.
Mm-hmm.
The galleries are like somebody's home, and they want to sell a Ford to be a Ford, a Chevy to be a Chevy, a Mercedes Benz, and I broke out that mold after winning Earth Art 3 show in 1979, competing with 2,800 artists. I won first prize and got my first piece in the Philadelphia Art Museum. And no, I was black. My work was great until I showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know me and you know me, I laugh all the time about everything. I don't, I'm finally starting to look my age. and I never let people know how smart I really am.
Yeah. I think that's the brilliance of what you do. It's like when even when you have a trial or tribulation, I know some great artists coming out of it because you don't let it get down. You get
Uh,
you down, you get to work.
so you were at my house just recently for the first time, and and being the historian that you are, you broke it down and you saw it. And what's so crazy about that, B? It's only been a couple months or whatever, and I'm attacking. Well, I'm not attacking. I'm making it visual
Mm-hmm.
what Walt Disney was about and what Steamboat Willie was about. And so they freed that copyright. Now I did this whole body of work called Free Steamboat Willie.
Mm-hmm.
And with that came I'm about 8 pieces in. All three of those pieces you saw here
Mm-hmm.
are sold.
I knew they would be.
So this one
They
brother
was
came down
fire.
from New York, pinked it, and they're gone. And I got mad. I got mad, even though I put a price tag on it that I thought was enough.
Mm-hmm.
Soon as he bought all three of them, I got real angry, and I was like 15 grand. And I said that was what one should have been.
Yeah.
I said, what am I doing? I'm not gonna ever make that work again. Now I'm trying to catch up and do some other ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, so. In retrospect, people are looking. Some
Mm-hmm.
serious collectors are looking, but
They
it
always
hasn't.
are.
But it hasn't been known yet. And so, where I'm at right now has the potential to give me what I call a footnote. And
Mm-hmm.
that footnote, that's why I pray every day. I do a little mantra and give thanks. And I'm trying to be humble about the
Yeah.
talent and respectful, and do as much as I can for others, that long as it's not detrimental to me
Mm-hmm.
and my talent. And that takes a lot. I'm really private now more than ever, and a lot of people still love me being around. And I think about a lot of cats that, Louis Tanner Moore just died 3 days ago,
Wow.
and him and Brantley came by to see me about 2 months ago. And the reality of my age group, pay attention to those people that are paying attention to you, giving homage and giving thanks and breaking bread. Because you may never ever see them again. And whatever problems you had going through your journey, you gotta let that go.
Yeah.
You gotta let that go, and especially now in the climate of this country, this world, you gotta let it go. You
That
gotta
ain't
let it
worth
go.
it. Yeah.
And, and so I'm recording, but I'm recording at a higher frequency. And even that body of work, I was able to navigate it through so you don't see any anger,
Mm-hmm.
but you see the symbolic meaning of the work if you understand the history. And that's, you were able to decipher that and looking at the work. And I thought that's your gift
Yeah.
because you've seen so much.
I pride myself. I'm even right now. I'm in Dallas, and going to look at some shows and stuff after this. And it's like I talk with a lot of my different curator friends or writer friends, and sometimes they're like, dude, like I don't understand how you can just focus on the work like you do.
Well,
Like most people worry about the business side or this side, and it's like for me, like I truly just care about the work. Like I like to
well,
enjoy the work.
yeah, and the more you see, the more you see.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of pretenders out here to the throne, man. I mean, because you're making money, that doesn't mean you're making great art. I
That's the
can't tell.
truth.
You know,
That's the truth. But it goes back to you saying, like, if you're marketable,
yeah,
there's enough people here with, the financial means that understand marketing,
yeah,
more
right,
than they understand art. They
yeah, yeah,
understand that, hey, if this person is, has a name or something, and I buy it for 5, maybe I can sell it for 20 if their name gets,
Right.
that push. It's
Right.
not like, oh, this person is making dynamic artwork that I just can't live without. There aren't many of those situations to where people are like, you know what, this is something that you know I need as a part of my life. You
Okay,
know.
here's the answer to the real question. And I grew up being around people making art to make history.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference with that uniqueness and idea. I was at a table with David Hammond sitting at in 1985 at Charles Searles' house with Al Loving and a few other cats that were sitting there. And I was a kid at the table. I was a little kid at the table, and we were all signing this piece of artwork. And David wouldn't sign it, and so Charles said, "Why are you disrespecting me like that, David?" And David said, "Because if I sign it, it'd be worth a lot of money."
Wow.
Now, if I had that drawing today, I hope Kathleen has that drawing, Charles's wife, somewhere.
Yeah.
Because we all know what David Hammond's work is selling at now.
That's one of my favorites.
So, I
Hammond's one of
mean,
my favorites.
I met this kid in Mexico whose family is the top Mexican artist in the world. I
Yeah, you
mean,
told me. Yep.
so I don't know him. I just met him, and he asked me a question about New York, and I tell him this story about David Hammons, and he just goes nuts. He says, "You." His eyes get all big. You actually did a drawing with David Hammons, and so again, it's all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of cats pass on. I don't know what I got so much artwork. I don't even know how much artwork I got now because I lost a lot of in traveling.
Yeah.
But when people come in and they see this work, they either hate it or love it. There's no in between. And then if they love something, it's usually, and it's interesting now, it's usually somebody that's been influenced by my work,
Mm-hmm.
which cracks me up. It cracks me up.
I've seen your influence, on a lot of artists, globally and also in the city. We've talked about it plenty of times,
Sure.
and I think that a lot of that comes from your approach of people, they know what you're doing is pioneering, but they don't understand or don't want to give the proper credit.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always admired is, like, instead of just dealing with somebody that's not going to give anything or not going to respect it, you just build it.
Yeah.
From the Dupree Studios, which is still my always be my favorite place in the world, to the Dupree Gallery, to even the new space out in Lambertville, to where it's just like, I've always admired that. Like you said, you have tons and tons of work, and it's going to be shown, no matter if it's going to be shown with another gallery or you're going to show it yourself. It's going to be seen. And I've always dug that, and I've taken that into my approach, to where it's like, and it's, as I've gotten older, as I've gotten deeper into understanding this arts profession, to where it's just like, certain things you have to do on your own,
Right.
because or they won't
Right.
they won't get
Right.
done. Like, you can
Right.
sit there and you can complain as much as you want,
Right.
but until you tie up them shoes and get those
Get to
hands
work.
dirty, get to work.
Get to work. And so I'm probably more productive now than ever, if you can believe that. Um, I'm doing more now, but I'm planning at a different level
Mm-hmm.
of acceptance and of the work, and the reason why I'm doing the work. I think these new sculpture pieces have major potential. You know,
Mm-hmm.
person came out the other day, another person very powerful in the art world right now, um, could not hide the enthusiasm. And it came out, I really don't like you kind of thing, but I respect this art.
Yeah.
And it's all about me. Well, it is all about me, but wasn't trying to hurt you because it's all about me. It was never my intention. I've never, despite what anybody dislikes about me, there was always a backstory and always a reason. Now, you may not want to hear it, you may not believe it, but it's my story, and any artist that's done anything, and I used to say it like this, but I quit saying it. If you ain't got no haters, you haven't done anything. But if you
True.
got more haters, than lovers, so you got to move, and then you got a whole bunch of new lovers because you haven't done anything or been around long enough for them to hate on you.
Hate him. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is like, because like personally I think like the most and it's probably because of the period that I started to understand art and this and that, but I look at just like different arts from like, I call it before the eminent domain and after the eminent
Yeah,
domain.
yeah,
um
yeah.
some of the works that were done during the eminent domain period is some of the greatest works that I've seen in your whole oeuvre. Like I've
Wow,
I've
thanks, B.
I've told people,
Ugh,
like, it's like what they say, like with the writer, like with
ugh,
music writing, like until you hurt more, you won't make your best.
right,
You won't make your best music.
right.
And for folks that don't know, like, we'll put the details and stuff up there. There's a major film for Mr. Dupree with dealing with all the stuff with the city of Philadelphia, with the eminent domain of Dupree Studios, which turned out to be an amazing blessing for Mr. Dupree because,
I got out.
man, all the stuff that you've been through to come out shining like a diamond. And y'all can
Uh,
see that on many platforms. Even I
yeah,
did a little mini
yeah, yeah,
documentary.
yeah.
Big Ty, um, shout out to Big Ty, did thing, and you're still touring
Big
that
Ty
film.
and Joe Sapienza. Yeah, I
Yo,
mean,
Big Joe, yeah, yeah, and Joe too.
Joe films for the NFL, and
Yeah, Joe is dope.
Joe Blue. He's got some serious documentaries, just like Ty. And again, we just had an airing on the 26th, 27th of April
Mhm.
to make myself visible to the New Hope Lambertville community, and it really rocked a lot of people. There was a lot of people came out. That have also been affected by the law of eminent domain, where the government is taking their homes and didn't get fair market value.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think about it, but that was raw gut expressions of the situation I was going through.
Yeah.
And again, when I look back on that, that's what I taught my students, is how to tell your story through technique, understand how to do something to show and teach why you did
Yeah.
it. You know,
I
Eh,
remember, like, even coming to the studio, like, if if I came there on a Monday, it'd be something, but if I came there on a Wednesday, it'd be completely different, and that'd be 2 days later. And I would come in, I would get some tea. You were like, B, I got to show you something. We walk in front, and we pass evolving elements. Is that what it's called?
yeah,
Evolving elements piece, which I love.
yeah,
And then we go in the little studio first,
yeah.
where you had the different masks and faces and
That
things
was
like
mixed
that.
media. That was,
Yeah, the mixed
yeah,
media studio. And then
little
we would walk.
constructions.
And
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
walk into the back studio, and I still remember the day where you had that long installation piece with
Oh,
all the money and all the stuff
oh,
from the promise zones and all this. And I thought that was like, that was like seeing like a great work being made in real time. We
yeah,
always get to see all of these old films of
yeah,
artists at work, and whether it's Dr. Selma Burke, Augusta Savage, Richmond Barthet,
yeah,
anybody that's
yeah.
working on these films. But I actually got to stand there and see this work as it's being built. Like, I thought, as a curator, arts professional, whatever I want to call myself on any
Mm.
given day, I thought that was the biggest treat that I could ever
Oh,
have,
wow.
because
Well,
that was
thank you for
you.
that.
Oh man, like I
So
can't thank you enough for some of the stuff
well,
that you've done for
let me
me.
put it in perspective. Uh, it's about 3 weeks now. I went up to see the Harlem Renaissance
Mm.
at the Met,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to see all my greats.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the cat's name that paints with fuchsia color, pink paintings.
Ed Davis.
No, that's uh, I see the work right now. I can't. I don't know. But the moral of that story is I saw all the cats that influenced me,
Mm-hmm.
and the greatest example of that was Romy's piece outlining the community,
Mm-hmm.
the buildings, the people, and then the epiphany of it all, knowing Jacob Lawrence personally when he came to Philly and worked with him for a week, telling a story that he couldn't go to his exhibitions.
Hmm.
So there we were, fast forwarded to today, Jake and Romy are both gone. And that whole room where that collage piece of Harlem was filled with white people.
Hmm.
Wasn't a black person in that room. And I could only imagine the fact that they could probably have never imagined that. So I don't know. That gave me a great feeling of validation
Yeah.
to my own personal experience of wanting to be an artist, never wanting to be anything else but an artist, and being an artist at 74, living in the dream of the dream that I always projected for myself.
Did you?
So
I was going to say, did you see? I mean, we can never predict longevity as humans, but did you see longevity in the work, or can you see longevity in your work as you're making it? Like this piece, I think is going to really
I don't.
live because of what you're talking about.
Well, yes, and when that's happening is um, somewhere along the line I read what we're all about is impressing ourselves. It's like
Mm-hmm.
playing golf. You're never going to get good enough. But if you practice one shot enough, you can always make that shot.
Mm-hmm.
Or when your putting is on, that putting stroke comes because you practice goo gobs an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You read the green just right. So, like a guy I, that just bought one of my paintings, he says, I really like you as an artist. You're brilliant. You're this, that, and the other. But I want to know. And he goes to the painting. He's looking at a piece that's about this big. How you did that?
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I didn't do that. God did that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did that. I mean, I know what I did to get to that point. That was 20 years. I always tell people these paintings and some of these paintings took 20, 25 years to really make the paint look like glass. But 25 years ago, before anybody was doing what I was doing, I said one day my paintings are going to look like glass.
Mm-hmm.
And when they finally did, it morphed over. And I'll never forget going down my first year to Art Basel. If you saw 10 paintings, four of them had resin on them because I had
Mm-hmm.
just started. And within 2 years, every painting
Everything.
had resin on it. Remember that year everything had
Oh
resin
yeah.
on it?
Yep.
Everything was shiny.
Everything. I remember. I
Well,
mean,
I was in
that.
front of that curve by 25 years, man. They was laughing at my stuff. I used to put 10 coats of shellac on my paintings, man. I used to glaze my paintings up over and over. I had a show at Nexus in Philly, and the director said, "You got to these. I don't know what we're gonna do with these paintings. The light is just reflecting over. You can't even see the paintings." I said, "Until you move into a certain spot."
Yeah.
I said,
Placement.
"That's why I want." She says, "Oh, it's so garish," but that's exactly how I wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like James Brown had danced exactly like how James Brown wanted to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in front of stuff like that, there's nothing you can do but take the hits, keep moving, and then everybody catches up.
Yeah. How how do you feel when like today's artists they feel that they don't have the time to let their practice develop? Because like you said, like some paintings it took you 20 years to get to, and this it seems like the art world is pushing a lot of artists to speed up that 20-year process into 20 weeks. But
Because they're in love with money
mm,
and not in love with the art, the process.
yeah,
I mean, it's always been my love affair, you know. I mean,
yeah.
so they don't get that, and it was so. I'll never forget. I was giving a lecture in England.
Hmm.
This kid stands up. He says, "There's just one thing I'd like to say to you." And I go, "Uh oh, this guy's gonna call me the N word in front of all these people." So let me get ready. And he says, and he says to me, "I just want you to know you're a fuck. Can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
You're a fucking capitalist."
Wow.
And I started laughing, and everybody's going, I said, "Young man, if that's the worst thing you can say to me, I want to thank you."
Wow.
And I said, "You didn't call me the N word. You didn't call me black this, and black. You called me a fucking capitalist. And you know, you are absolutely right. And I've never thought about that because that makes me an American.
Mm.
And especially now, we don't worship God. We worship, we don't worship God. We worship green.
Especially in this country. Hell yeah. It's
We worship
globally now.
green.
Yep.
It's about the green. I get my paper. Where's my paper? I'll kill you if you don't give me my. So I've always said this art has saved my life.
Yeah.
This art has made me the man I always wanted to be. And people see me in so many different lights and so many different circles and don't know who I am.
Hmm.
So my guru says, the guy that said, "How'd you make that?" When I told him, I said, "God painted that." He says, "I want to know you as the man."
Mm.
And I do Eastern philosophy, Eastern religions. I have a PhD in psychology, certified shrink, and I want to know you as a man. I said, "Well, how much does that cost?" He says, "That." He said, I mean, he got clients all over the world. I mean, he's flying all over the world. And
Yeah.
he says, "I didn't ask you about no money. I said, I want to know you as a man." So I could call him right now if he's not busy with a client and ask him a question. I'll get an answer.
Hmm.
You know, or go, let's go have a meal. You know, it's like that's a different level of life. And I've removed myself from a lot of people. I'm still socially at the gallery. People come looking for me, but my new one is there's no time
Yep.
to be with negative time, negative energy, negative
At all.
anything. We're all running. I ain't got no time to make time for you. That's
Hmm.
my way of what. But I just say I don't have. I'm sorry, I don't have any time. But what I'm really saying, I don't have any time to make time for you.
That yeah. That nonsense. Straight up. It's just like that one, I reposted this quote that Jay Z was saying. It's like, people, they look at, when you don't respond in the way they're expecting you to respond, they
Right,
look at it as arrogance. And you're like,
right,
no, he's like, no, it's not arrogance. I just don't want to argue
right.
with you about dumb shit.
Well, I told my guru, I said, this guy, he wanted me to teach him. I said, $250 an hour. And he says, okay. And my guru says, "You see, that's not enough money for your time."
Mm,
He says, "Did you learn anything?" And I said, "No, what you mean?" He says, "Well, that wasn't enough money for your time." And so once you get that in perspective, people don't know how to do it. That's why I got so upset. This is the first person since I've been here in 4 years that came into my house inviting to insult me.
wow.
I just, my spirit, my energy, my my empathy, just can't handle it.
Yeah.
I just broke down, man, like a 2-year-old. Man, oh, why would you say that to me? What did I do to you?
Yeah.
What did I do to you that you would want to say those things to me? And I'm sorry. And that was the lesson. The old James Dupree, F you, pumped all
Yeah.
up, get the fuck out of my house. It was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't invite people like you in my home anymore. I don't have to. I don't have to be angry about your feelings towards me,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I did nothing in my spirit, my soul, to bring those reactions to you, for you, and that's what you're seeing in the artwork. I still have um, discontent about things, but I've removed the anger,
Mm.
and so tell that story in a lovingly way, in a
Yeah.
less offensive way, so people can enter and then find out to themselves they're feeling uncomfortable about something, but they don't know or understand what that is.
I
And
mean,
that's
I've always thought that was like a really key point of your work for me because the beauty brings you in,
yeah,
but when
yeah,
you get inside, it's like you have this beautiful home that is decorated beautifully inside. I mean, outside, I'm sorry, like the facade looks amazing, everything. But when you come inside, you meet the family, and the family is as dysfunctional as it can be.
yeah,
You know, and I think that's the brilliance of your practice for me. It's like, man, this looks beautiful. Like whether it's glazed or whether it's etched or painted, you know, or manipulated in a way with all the different mixed media techniques I've seen you put forth. But it's like once you learn the actual story of what it is, it's still beautiful,
yeah.
but it's also heartbreaking.
It's like the painting I'm looking at across the room called Flint.
Mm-hmm.
Flint, Michigan still got dirty water.
Still, yep, yep, still. And it's like even with the stuff with like the eminent domain period with all that stuff and all those works, you drive back down Haverford and all that. I don't like nothing don't look different. Like nothing's really changed. You know, they put all this energy, time, effort, and made not only you but other people, uproot and do all this stuff, and they haven't followed through on all the pain that they were putting forth through people. So it makes me look at it like their quote unquote artwork is always incomplete. They're trying to remove the beauty that contains the message with their artwork, which is the eminent domain or land restructuring or neighborhood restructuring. And all they did was create chaos. But with your work, you're bringing them in with beauty to sit them down and have a real conversation with them. And I think
About
that's the difference between the
yeah,
work and the politics, especially in Philadelphia. It's like they they stuff is messed up on the facade, but they bring you in and try to talk you into it. Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But the work that you put out is say, oh, look at how beautiful it is. Now let me tell you how fucked up this really is.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to do with the remaining time of my life is have these pieces that are so striking. Um, you can see already in America they don't want to talk about COVID.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about the insurrection. They want to ban the books to tell the
Mm-hmm.
story and solidify the history.
Yep.
So this piece I'm trying to construct now is the healing of the cultural divide
Mm.
and how you go through the installation and you're impacted with color first, and then rooms are black and white and reflection, mirrored rooms where um, the viewer is part of the installation. And I think the impact of the rooms, and my goal is Mass Mocha and Art Yard and all these large spaces. and I constructed a little pamphlet that I'm going to circulate to 6 or 7 institutions and see what happens.
Yeah.
The work speaks for itself. Uh,
Always does.
the scale, monumental scale, means sculptures up to 60 feet, even 20. Once you get past 15, 20 feet, um, it resonates a feeling. Now, if you can got something that is the colors that you can make now that can, I mean, this car paint that is now interference. You walk by, change colors and the
Mm-hmm.
resins, and I know how to make it look like glass. And now I found all these green products that look like ebony wood, different woods
Mm-hmm.
and different metals. It's and I'm trying to get a company to sponsor me to do this work. Grounds for sculpture out there, a digital atelier. They can
Mm-hmm.
pretty much digitize anything and put it in a 3D format at any scale up to, I think they can do up to 40 feet out there.
Oh yeah.
So, man, I mean, to see one of those, I hope I live long enough,
I
and
think it'll happen.
I'm,
I always do.
and I can see it, and then I will say to myself, okay, there it is. You did it.
Mm-hmm.
You did it. Forget footnotes. You did it
Yeah.
at a level that you cannot not put this piece of sculpture anywhere in the world where it will not impact that that audience. And for me, the greatest thing I think on the planet and that resonates with that kind of idea is the bean in Chicago.
Mm.
That's my goal. The bean in Chicago.
How do you as an artist for over 50 years, over 60 years at this point, how do you like I guess handle the duality of your intent and the response? How does that like help to further the creation of other work? How does that help for you to revisit the work that people have this good or bad response to?
You have
How does that help you?
you have to understand subjectivity.
Yeah.
And once you understand subjectivity, you can remove the second part of the question, the response. You
Mm-hmm.
really don't care, but you do. It's that dichotomy, it's that ambivalence
Yeah.
of, but the most important part is the creativity, the actual doing of the work. Um, think it's so large, so big, so beyond your idea. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you follow me saying stuff on Facebook and Instagram, I'm always talking about dream bigger,
Yep.
dream bigger, dream bigger. And everybody's telling you what you can't do still and what you shouldn't be doing. And or I, I have to always remind people, number one, I had a stroke.
Yeah.
Number two, you're 25. I'm close to 75. So yeah, you're right at 25 for your 25-year-old stuff and your technology. But when I was 25,
Mm-hmm.
I was at the University of Pennsylvania that first year, sleeping in a building with no heat, no bathroom, no kitchen, and I ate every other day.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. Like
Now you,
and I was going to say like that when people say, "Oh, I want to how do I get to, make in the same type of style of like, Romare Bearden or Jacob Lawrence and this and that." And I was like, "Well, most people will never even be able to reach anything like that because the times are not even
right,
the same to bring out that type of
right,
response from the artist,
right.
um because like you say, like you you were living in that situation at 25, and then a 25-year-old now has YouTube, they have all these other things that allow them to reach out to the community, so the circumstances are different, that produces a different result. And I think that's what one of the issues with the work that is constantly in the art world is that you know not enough people spend time with their art. There's there's 16,000 galleries, it seems to be,
Mm.
within any radius, to where it's just like, okay, I'm done with this piece in the studio. Now I have to throw it up on somebody's wall. Not looking at it. What does it mean to me? Did I really want to get this part across? You know, what the what am I trying to where am I trying to place this? What context? You know, black artists not really getting shows um throughout the history, not like they're doing now. It gave them time to really rework artwork, redo 5 different pieces. I've seen you do. I've seen you make 15 different works on the same theme. Just trying to bring out different voices, trying to see from different angles, and that's brilliant to me, because you're testing not only the materials, but you're testing that engagement.
Well, it's a process again. It's a process to achieve excellence.
Mm-hmm.
For the idea of people don't get artists because I still think like the greatest artist of my life, to me, in any lifetime, is still Hieronymus Bosch. And the greatest painting, is Garden of Earthly Delights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people were so afraid of him. Mind you, no radio, no TV, no cars.
Nothing.
He got kicked out of 16 different villages because when they found out and saw that work, they were freaked out. When you think about it, there are a lot of art that's out there today, still, thank God, that's frightening.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like it, but when Geiger came out, which ended up being Alien 1, 2, and 25, I made it Alien. That was his art.
Yeah.
I saw Geiger in college. I went nuts. I just thought that was amazing. He was doing that stuff with that airbrush and those monsters.
Like I
That was some
Wow.
vision based on an art form that was satanic.
Yeah, like you said, that's what he's creating. That's what he sees. That's his honest vision.
And
And
to
I think
me,
that many artists today,
yeah.
they don't they're not that they don't have an honest vision. They're afraid to put forth their honest vision because of the critique and all of the things like we talked about earlier that you're gonna go through if you're dealing in this game, or you're dealing with arts, period. You're going to go through this.
There's a couple kids in Philly right now. There's one girl. She's modeling in Philly. She came out of UArts,
Yeah.
and I saw her color. I saw the stuff she's putting together. I went nuts. I put her in a show with the dumpster diver. She does found art, but that palette is hers. It's all these day glow colors,
Yeah.
and it's mesmerizing and seeing it. And then also, what I'm starting to see is something that I never thought I would see is the intensity uh, of chroma
Hmm.
installations. I mean, just all these dense colors and um, where you're seeing things where it's 360. They're
Yeah.
creating environments with the floor, the wall, the ceiling. They're doing multimedia installations are just off the charts today. I
Yeah,
mean,
they are.
Philly's got that thing out there right now. I can't think of the name. It's something World. Um, that's the start of it, and I look at my paintings, especially that one period where I switched over from the circles to the ovals, which
Hmm.
became evolving elements, was about that. I used to dream about
Yeah.
painting the whole room like that, the floor, the wall, the ceiling, even that mural I had out there, which intrigued people because I painted the sidewalk, and
Yeah.
it was parts
That was
in that,
that was so dope to me,
and that
because it
was part of.
extended it.
Well, it was part of it. If you shot the right angle,
Hmm.
you encapsulated in that mural and the sidewalk. And
Yeah.
a lot of people were flipping out when they caught on. And then I started seeing a lot of the mural artists. painting buildings where the trees are the hair. I like all that. That's
Yeah.
creates an environment, that creates an installation where you're part of it. And so there's so much art going on in the world today. And what happened for me was I was able to go to Korea. Now, in Korea, I thought in terms of painting, it was some of the most technically sound paintings I had ever seen was
Oh
in
yeah, in Asia.
Korea.
Oh man, in
Man,
Asia, the paintings are the form, the
their
process.
realism
Oh,
is off the charts.
off the chain.
I mean, they make oil paint look like it's airbrush, you know.
Yeah,
So, so if you haven't seen that stuff, that's why you got to travel. And
yeah.
I guess the point I'm making is, uh, since the invention of mass mocha, I was in Northampton, Massachusetts the year it opened up,
Hmm.
and I could see that change. Even in its early inceptions, it was mostly conceptual, large scale balloons blown up and bottles all in the room with objects in it, like a science project.
Hmm.
But it has morphed over to where a lot of the installations are. I can't think of his name. Not Don. I want to say Donald Judd, but it's not Donald Judd. Um, where they got these large painted walls. The whole room is a massive painting. The hallway. They didn't go up the ceiling or the floors yet, but I knew then that I wanted to end up there somehow, some way.
Hmm.
And that one brother that came out of Philly, he did the subways up there. He had a show up there, and after his show there it went viral. He did the subway in New York. He does the clothing. He does all the bright colors, the clothing, the painting, the found objects. He had a room full of toys and what's his name?
Was that Roberto? Roberto
No,
Lugo?
no, not Lugo. Lugo's blown up now too. He's
Yeah,
gone.
Roberto's dope. Roberto's super dope. I'm
Oh,
trying to think which artist.
I'll send you his name, but
Yeah.
as soon as I do, he's on the. I mean, he's the guy right now, and he's out of Philly, which is really funny. He's out of Philly, and dresses, these large figures. I think he's got an installation in New York subways.
Really?
Yeah,
I gotta figure. I wonder why. Why can't I think of who that is right
he's
now?
got a real simple name too.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I'll send it to you because
Yeah,
as soon as we stop here, I'll remember his name.
yeah. So one
Um,
one other question I had
okay.
that I think I always wanted to ask, and this and that is like, how do you feel about letting your pieces go to collectors and museums and all that? Because like I remember being in Dupree Studios and going up in like the attic part and all of that, and you had like 6 to 7 thousand pieces of artwork. And I've always thought it's just like,
Well,
how does Mr. Dupree feel when one of these leave the collect? Like if they go to somebody, is it for someone that just understands it? Do you like place it with the right person? How does it when because
well, I got several answers to that, and
yeah.
well, the first one right now is, of course, the new stuff is getting harder and harder because to me they're so valuable, and in order to keep my gallery open, I gotta pay them bills. So
Yeah.
I'm letting a piece go for $4 or $5,000, which somebody thinks is a lot of money, and I know I'm never going to be around to paint that one again. I painted on the canvas. I painted on this panel for maybe 6 years. I'm picking up $5,000, and that barely pays 2 months of my assistant salary.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it doesn't. Anyway, William T. William passed something on to me when I was a kid, and that was, you want to create repeat buyers
Hmm.
and never sell one person too much work. I think I did the biggest mistake I made is I sold Leroy Moore 25 paintings over a 3 year period. So that collection, wherever it's at, has some of the best work.
Mm.
And so now somebody contacted me the other day and about an auction. taking two of my pieces to an auction in New York. And my answer was, you sparked my interest.
Hmm.
But what I'll need from you is the name of the auction house, the dates, the
Right.
time, minimum bid,
Mm-hmm.
um, all in writing,
Yep.
transportation, shipping, um, what collection it ends up in, if it ends up somewhere. So yeah, I would love for my two best pieces just to test the market. One at 50,000, another one at 75,000. And so, just because you tell me the last piece you took up sold for 4.5 million, that sounds good,
Yeah.
but I don't see any paperwork. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
So this I need all the factual information. And I'll look it over and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I've always, been of the mind that, and we all know that an auction can make or break,
Yeah.
an artist's career because that's the centralized, docket that's
Right.
holding,
Right.
these prices, these realized prices in the market.
Right.
Because, primary market stuff is, whatever someone can sell it for is pretty much what it's worth at that point.
Right.
But when it comes to that secondary market,
That's
you
right.
see the real value because it's like, okay, someone still has to have this. And if you put it, like you said, in the wrong auction on the wrong night with the wrong, set of, audience that are potential buyers, you can get a less than favorable result that's not reflective of what it exactly is. So like I've been very conscious of understanding when to
Right.
go to auction.
Yeah, that minimum bid, if there's no minimum bid in there um, at the value you think the work is at,
Hmm.
you shouldn't be wasting your time.
Exactly.
And then so on that minimum bid, what is your percentage?
Hmm.
So that painting that I'm selling for $75,000, you want 50%. Now you got that minimum bid is $150,000.
150. Yep.
Now most artists don't know that. Little
Hmm.
simple. Now you don't put your $75,000 painting in there, and then somebody just picked it up for 25,000, thinking you're doing something now. Now the agent he's taking his percentage. Now you're $75,000. You're getting a $15,000 check.
Yeah. Yep. And you don't even realize it because of the hopes and the thoughts of
Yeah,
what these auctions do. Like you said, the guy said he sold something for 4.5 million. You go in there with thinking that he can replicate that same process,
yeah,
and the
no,
piece gets bought in or
yeah,
it's sold under value, and then you're looking like, wow, like not only
right,
does this affect this piece, this could potentially affect my primary market.
right.
Because
So
if I'm selling pieces for 25,000 consistently or 50,000 consistently, and they throw it in an auction, which is not the right one, and it goes for 15,000, then everybody that's paying 25 and 50,000 for work is going to be looking like, wait a minute, what's going on
So,
here?
so as usual, be now I'm the a hole, I'm the asshole because I'm asking the right questions. Now
Asking
I'm
the
an
right questions.
asshole. I don't fuck with James Dupree. He's all about himself. Okay, I just asked you to,
Simple questions.
I want the same thing everybody else got.
Yep.
Call me up for Black History Month. Well, what did Alfred Leslie get when he showed up
Mm-hmm.
back in the day? Well, I want that catalog. I want the same stipend. I want the room. I want the lecture. I want the same thing. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know if we can do that. Okay, I guess I won't be showing in
Guess I won't
February
be doing it. Yep.
at your institution.
Yep. And I think a lot of artists, especially black artists, they either don't know that they can ask for these things or they
Yeah,
may
yeah,
be a little reluctant because they don't want to miss the opportunity. They think that
right,
someone's going to snatch the
right,
opportunity from them.
right,
And it's like,
right,
if they can do that, then you never really had it. They never really wanted to
right,
work
right.
with you in the beginning. So it's like, my hopes is that a lot of black artists, especially younger black artists that are very talented these days, it's like, take some time to just believe in yourself. Like that gallery that's, reaching out to you, that wants to show your work for that one time thing, don't be afraid to ask for some guarantees.
Well, again, I haven't been out there for a minute because I've always kept my own little gallery, so that was
Mm-hmm.
enough for me to get lucky every now and then. And but I'm gonna put it out there. I'm trying to package everything right. I want the work to be carry the right message. I
Mm-hmm.
want it to impact the right general public. I want it to travel around the country, around the world, and I want that message to be healing, even though in some of the work it's going to be totally subliminal. But eventually, the right people, right person will see my intentions were honorable, vibrating at a different level. Where if it's received properly in the right person, I tell my assistant all the time, you got to understand. I know you see it from a formal education that this is how it should be done, but that's not how it works. I can't be at 70 overt to say this is the message I'm sending and this is the subliminal message that's happening to you. You can't do that. But you have to find the right person that can. And the other thing that I've learned, and you as well, all the people that are the movers and the shakers
Mm-hmm.
that add to validity and that validate this work is because they saw something they liked
Yep.
and they decided that that was going to be the one. And then they create that market. And the greatest exploitation of all time, of course, was Basquiat.
Basquiat. Yep. Yep. And I think that type of attitude, that free will type of vibe of, and also not coming to the public as this um shiny suit wearing type of person. It was, I think Basquiat's very relatable to a lot of the real life artists in a sense. And I say real life artists in a sense where artists sometimes are self-taught, sometimes they go to school, sometimes they do this, sometimes they do that, sometimes they buy paint, sometimes they find it, sometimes they steal it. There's that notion of this artistry that was this quote unquote real artist feeling that Basquiat gave artists, to where he was almost just floating, like he had a chance and, well, did brilliantly with gallerists and things like that. But it's almost like for people, they look at him and say that he never stepped away from what he was. He just wanted to do what he wanted to do.
And there's different slants on it.
Mm-hmm.
My biases are based in my talent and my education. And so what happened was what happens to you as an African American artist
Yeah.
if you don't get that uh, stamp of approval
Mm-hmm.
in that education academic, especially Ivy, um, you're just not welcome.
Yeah. At all.
And so here you are with this formal academic education, and there's no support system for it.
None at all. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, black community dislikes you because you got educated at Ivy League institution. Ivy
Yeah.
League institution hates you. They want you there, but they really don't.
They really don't. Yep. 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 That's
And I didn't get that until I was honored by the Black Alumni Society. Honored to, I think it's Penn has 9 schools, and each one of us told the same story in a different school.
yeah.
And when you think, because you're isolated, you're the token,
Yes.
you think your story is the only one, and that is the norm.
Yeah.
That is
Exactly.
not the isolated one off occasion, that is the norm.
That's the
And then you
norm.
become a
Yep.
professor, you go into these institutions, and then you're berated overtly with
Mm-hmm.
racism, and then no one does anything about it because that kid that just called you the N word, called you nigga, is the son of the board member.
Yeah, yeah. Sadly, yeah, because a lot of that stuff, and and they, yeah, I don't even know what to even say. It's just all of that,
Well, I
just in
mean,
there, and
this,
it's like
you know,
you got to do what you
like
got to do to combat it.
somebody asked me, well, what was my experience at the academy in Philadelphia? And I didn't know who he was at the time, and I didn't. And I'm over those stories of telling the truth,
Yeah,
and and then taking all the heat for telling the truth.
telling the truth. Yep, yep.
These are not. I mean, I was in a school the first day of class. The kid stands up and says, "I just like you to know, Mr. Dupree, I hate niggers."
Wow.
Point blank, first day of school, first class.
Sheesh.
And so I was me. I just started laughing. I still laugh about it to this day. I stood next to him, addressed the class, and said, "Do all you know what day it is?" And they said, "What is that? What are you talking about, Mr. Dupre?" I said, "Today is drop ad." And for this young man standing next to me, he should take the former because I don't think he's going to do
Yeah,
very
you don't
well
think
in
you're gonna
here.
do?
And they called up the dean of students, the only other black professor at the institution, who was a
Yeah.
friend of mine. You know,
Wow.
so I'm the second African American to teach at University of Virginia in the art department.
Wow.
And so I have those stories of being successful in an environment of complete animosity and adversity.
Mm-hmm.
These are not friendly environments.
At
You know,
all.
I
At
I
all.
lasted 35 years uh, at the the wealthiest summer camp in America,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just laughing every day. Behind the scenes, one of the owners of the camp stole the paint
Wow.
and told the co-owner that I stole it.
Wow.
I went, and they called me up for a meeting. He says, "James, there's something we have to talk to you about. It's very personal because you know how
Wow.
much we like you." I said, "Well, that'll be cool. What is the problem?" "Well,
Yeah.
we can't seem to find the paint." I said, "Mean all that paint I left
All that stuff there, yeah. You can't seem to find nothing. You
in
crazy.
the vault there, that in the kitchen?" I said, "Well, let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I didn't go to college for 9 years to steal anything from anybody.
From
Number
anybody,
one.
yeah.
Number two, if I was going to steal the stuff, I would have never put it on the inventory sheet."
Straight up. If I was going to do it, you wouldn't have got it that way.
And he looked at me. He says, "Oh, James, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry." And then they had taken and used the credit card to my account.
Wow.
And and again, how do you tell these stories
Mm-hmm.
about your success and what you had to endure to be who you are today? And
Today.
I mean, and I got that. I was with Jacob Lawrence, and I can end here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when he was visiting us at Brandywine Workshop,
Yeah.
I was talking about how I couldn't get any exhibitions, and he turned to me. He says, "Well, young man, at least when you do get one, you can attend it."
You can attend it, yeah. That's
Because
true.
he said, "Now Romy could go downtown when we had an exhibition, but I couldn't."
Okay, I couldn't, yeah. But Mr. Dupree, like
There it is.
we
Yeah.
got to do more of these. I know I got to get together and finish up some work for the day, but this is only the beginning. We got to do more of these sit downs so we
Well,
can let these folks understand what we got going on up here.
the next time I won't leave it so you have so much editing to do.
No, we'll be good. So
All right, man.
I want to thank y'all for joining this episode of Cultural Canvases, Black Men Reshaping Fine Art and Creative Spaces. I'm Badir McCleary. That's James Dupree. Stay tuned for the next episode of this. And we bringing Mr. Dupree back for more of this, just goat talk. That's what we calling it, the goat talk. So, all
Well,
right, y'all.
thanks again. But yeah, I love you, man, and keep it forward, baby. Keep it forward.
Love you too, Mr. Dupree. And that's been the episode. Peace, y'all.